Welcome back. This is the first video for week 3. We are going to create a very basic table and chair using just primitives and groups. So I'm going to start introducing a little bit more about groups in this video. It was already introduced in the previous video where we were making a version of the winter scene, but now I'm going to start talking about it more in depth. So let's start making a table. I'm going to create, I could create it with a cube, but I think I would rather have a more interesting shape for the demo. So I'm going to create a cylinder. I'm going to go to inputs in the channel box. I'm going to change the subdivision caps from 8 to maybe, well, the subdivision caps should be 1. I'm talking about the subdivision axis, actually. That's what I want. And the axis should be maybe 6 or 5. I mean, it could be 4 if I wanted just a cube anyway, but I'd rather have an interesting shape. So let's go with 5. Let's say this is going to be our tabletop. So let's go ahead and scale this down. Good. And let's go ahead and go over to the top view. And let's make it a bit bigger. Now I'm going to go into X-ray mode or wireframe mode by selecting this or just pressing 4 on the keyboard. So I can press 5 to go to shaded mode and 4 to go into my wireframe sort of X-ray mode here. Yeah, this is a good size. So let's go ahead and start making some cubes then, because now we need to add in some legs. Well, maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. Just about there, perhaps. Yeah. And with this, let's take a look at this cube. I'm going to shrink it down. Let's go into this view. I'm going to take this tabletop and I'm going to push it up to just about there. Now with this cube, I am going to go ahead and just do some non-uniform scaling to make it sort of a table leg. That seems to be a good size, I think, for this. So now we need to start placing them in the right places. So we can do that with Snap to Grid, actually, is a good way of moving our stuff around with some degree of control. So instead of just, moving things freely throughout our viewport, we can actually have some sort of control here by snapping it to points on the grid that we have here. So we can move one here. We can Control D to make a copy. Move it here. Control D to make a copy. Move that one to here-ish. Make another copy there and another copy there. Let's see what this is looking like. It's not too bad. Yeah. Now I'll make sure I turn off Snap to Grids now that I'm done with them. And now that I have a basic shape for the table, let's actually go ahead and make this a little bit thinner, this tabletop, because I would like to Control D to duplicate it and make sort of a wider top of it here to get sort of a nicer, more thoughtful shape here instead of just basic primitives. Now it looks like it has a little bit more thought put into it, so that's not too bad. All right. Let's start placing things into groups now that I have this set up. So we have our tabletop here. I'm going to go ahead and take these two pieces and I'm going to go ahead and just press Control G to group them. And I'm going to name this group Tabletop. And now I'm going to take my 5 legs. I'm going to select them all via the outliner by just selecting the first one, then holding Shift, selecting the 5th one down here, selects everything in between. Now Control G, or we can go to, I believe it's Edit Group right here in order to create a group as well. And we just name these legs. And then we take the 2 groups, we put those 2 groups together, we make that one group, and we call this table. And now we can take this table all together and we can make it bigger, make it smaller. We can freely rotate it around if we want to. Ooh. We can scale uniformly or non-uniformly, if we please. That's excellent. I'm going to go ahead now and create a material for this. So let's go ahead and assign a new material. And let's make it a Lambert. And let's make this, I already have color history from my previous work. So let's go ahead and just take advantage of that. Just use and now I'm going to go ahead and assign this material to all the other stuff. So table wood. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and open the Hypershade. It's going to be faster this way. Because I can just drag it out. Wonderful. I can close the Hypershade now that the table is all set up. Let's go ahead and move this over. And now I'm going to make a chair. .25. Let's go with 0.25. I'm going to copy this. So I can paste it here. Paste it here. There we go. That makes more sense. I mean, I could keep these fatter if I wanted to, but I'm going to make them all match. Copy paste. Select this leg. Copy paste. 0.25 scale X. Copy paste. Which, by the way, is Control V into my scales. So Control C to copy and then Control V to paste. But of course, I don't want this to be a scale of Y of 2.25. But that's just an example. Okay. There we go. Perfectly acceptable primitive only chair here. Excellent. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give these all the same material. I probably should have done that from the beginning, but I didn't. So we're just going to open up the Hypershade again. I'm going to go ahead and just throw this material onto all the pieces of the chair. Then we'll go ahead and group them. Excellent. All right. I'm going to start grouping the pieces of this chair. Actually, I'm just going to make all of this as one group. I'm not going to bother dividing it up into subgroups. I'm just going to call this chair. All right. Let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I'm going to move my chair out of the way. I'm going to make my table. I'm going to take my table. I'm going to scale it up and scale it down just a bit. And my chair, I am going to need to shrink down, definitely. So let's go ahead and make the chair smaller. It's actually at a ground so I can have some perspective on where everything is. I'm going to get rid of the grid. Table selected. I am going to put this back in the center. Scale size is fine. Yeah, this looks okay now. Scale it down a little bit, actually. 1. It's sort of planted the ground there. Not too bad. And the chair, by comparison, its size is, let me turn on the wireframe here so I can see better, is a good size. That's an appropriate size just by eyeballing it. So I'm not too displeased by that. Okay, good. In that case, I don't need the ground anymore for this particular scene. So I'm going to take my chair and I'm going to go in my top view and I'm going to start placing it in the proper position here. Or actually, you know what, better. I'm just going to duplicate it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to start placing the chairs where they should go via the top view here. So just about. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Something else that I want to do to add a little bit more life to this scene is actually going to be adding in some more materials. So for example, this bottom part of the table, I'm going to go ahead and assign a new material. Excellent. We got a nice little scene here. So what was the point of all of this? Well, the point of this particular video is to emphasize the importance, I'm going to name this blue, emphasize the importance of organization in your scenes. As you have no doubt already noticed from your snowman projects, your scenes are going to get busy and your scenes are going to have lots and lots of stuff in them really, really quick. And so it is absolutely worth your time to assign groups, to name those groups, and to properly keep track of those groups as best you can. You can also name individual objects in of themselves. So, you know, right now I have this table group, but inside the table group, I have this tabletop group with 2 cylinders here. With those 2 initial cylinders I made to create the shape of the table. But I could name these if I wanted to. All I have to do is go into the attribute editor and just change this, let's see, right here, change this from pCylinder 2 and rename it tabletop. And I can rename the one, by the way, here instead of going to the attribute editor, I'm just double clicking in the outliner and calling it table bottom. As we move into future videos for this particular week, we are going to be working with hierarchies. We're going to be working with groups. We're going to be working with lots and lots and lots of primitives all at once. And so it's going to be incumbent on you to do your best to keep things as organized as possible. That is the purpose of this first video. It's not just using primitives to create a basic table and some chairs. It is a video in order to emphasize the importance of keeping your scenes organized in the way that I did. So I hope you extracted some value from this. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.